Erin Levzow is the kind of woman who can orchestrate a mango habanero revolution, outdance you on a ballroom floor, and still have time to school you on why impressions are the horoscopes of marketing metrics. She's equal parts data nerd and creative rebel, blending emotional intelligence with strategies that make audiences laugh, cry, or crave wings, sometimes all three at once. On this episode of the ADOTAT Show, Erin spills on the mango uprising, why Rick Ross makes the perfect brand ambassador, and how ballroom dancing taught her to turn missteps into marketing magic. This one's spicy, saucy, and totally unmissable.
Eric Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
Welcome to the ADOTAT Show, where I, Pesach Latin, your favorite media and marketing troublemaker, get to sit down with the brilliant Erin Levzow. She's the kind of marketing powerhouse who can juggle data, creativity, and probably flaming cats if you asked her to. Let's see if we can keep it professional-ish. So how are you feeling today, Erin? Still balancing math and creativity like Cirque du Soleil acrobat, or is it one of those days where the spreadsheet wins and the storytelling takes a backseat?
Oh man, it's definitely a balancing act. So creativity for sure. I feel like everything in marketing is math-based. So being able to balance that left and right brain is where I live most days.
So you've often said that marketing is about mixing analytics with emotional intelligence. How do you turn data into something that tugs at people's heartstrings instead of putting them to sleep?
Yeah, so emotional intelligence and emotional technology, I think, really go hand in hand. So you have the technology piece, that's the math base, that's the understanding how to get and when to get to your customer. And then you have the emotional side, which is the storytelling side. So how we tell the story, what that arc of the story is, and really my goal, whether it's in Vegas or selling Wingstop, I'm getting people to realize that they want something they didn't realize they needed.
Right. You were told early in your career that digital marketers couldn't be CMOs, and you actually proved that wrong. And even at Wingstop, you used feedback from removing the mango habanero flavor to rethink customer engagement.
Yeah. So yes, early on in my career, it was when you either sat on the digital side, which was still relatively new, or the traditional side. And I had chosen the digital side, but I went, this is the way of the future. This is what everyone's going to need, is this data and analytics. And the traditional side was, hey, we put up a billboard. We really don't know how it performed. And so that was a huge differentiator as digital came back to when you're media buying going, hey, this is how the results look. This is what we have to do. Here's how we want to invest more money because we can actually track the revenue. And the traditional side would come back and be like, but we drove brand awareness. And they'd go, how do you know? And we go, we don't know. And so we knew early on that data analytics would be that way. And at Wingstop, actually, it's funny. We had a LTO, limited time offer. Restaurants do this all the time. They rolled out mango habanero sauce with the idea that it was just seasonal. And the goal of any LTO is just to drive traffic during that time, regardless of if people eat mango habanero, because they have 10 other wing flavors to choose from. Right. And during that time, when we finally got to the point of taking it away, it wasn't mixing very high. It was very small percentage. So we didn't think anything of it. We rolled it out just like we normally would and then took it away. Well, when we did that, people went crazy on social media. They were saying like, I can't believe you took it away. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. And we thought about it. And instead of coming back to them and being like, okay, here you go, have it back. Because people were really like, they took out a change.org petition. That's like Save the Whales. They're saying bring back mango habanero. It didn't make sense to me. So we talked a lot internally and we said, well, it's really them that we're bringing it back for, all the people that really have a loud voice in this. And what we did was we put together influencer kits and we mailed them to approximately 125 people who were very vocal about this. And we got their address by asking them to vote on whether they wanted mango habanero to come back. And when they said they did, we asked them, okay, thanks. And just like a form, just fill out your name and address, etc. And people would. And so we took these kits, we stamped Viva el Revolucion on them, and we shipped them to people. Not that they were coming from Wingstop, but They were part of the revolution. And when they got it, they opened the kit and there was like Viva El Manganero stickers and t-shirts. And there was like the masked man who was saying like, we've taken over the airwaves to bring back Mango Habanero. And we eventually brought it back. But what happened was people posted about it for us, right? We told a story through it and people told the story actually on our behalf to say, you guys, I think it's coming back. I got this in the mail. There's nothing that says it's from Wingstop, but it's obviously from Wingstop. And we grew our social reach by 1,000% overnight. It was unbelievable. And then, of course, we brought it back into the stores and it actually mixed slightly higher, but it definitely drove traffic.
So is it still on the menu?
It is still on the menu.
So what's the most absurd metric you've ever used that turned out to matter? And please don't tell me it was napkin usage per chicken wing.
No, I would say very early on in my career, it was deliverability, which sounds crazy because anyone listening would go, well, no, that's important. And it did turn out to matter. But early on, everything was deliverable. And we didn't really know anything outside of of course it was delivered to everyone all the time. And now, fast forward, now we really track deliverability and whether it makes it in the inbox versus which tab of the inbox versus was it open or actually read. And the same for SMS and all these other metrics as well.
So do creative folks still roll their eyes when you bring up data, or have you converted them to the gospel of numbers?
I think creative folks, if you sit solely in creative, you have to believe in data. The question is whether or not they can get the data. And so the best partnerships are when, even if I have an agency doing all our creative, how I'm sharing the data back, what's resonating, what's not resonating. And we don't have to do necessarily focus groups anymore. It used to be we'd get a bunch of people in the room, like a hodgepodge, and we'd go, do you like this? And it turns out what someone says and what someone does are two different things. And so we'd ask people, do you like this? They go, oh, I love it. But when you actually tested it in front of them, it wouldn't resonate. So now we can run a test very quickly. We can run a multivariable test, an A/B test, and be able to report back with our creative partners to go, hey, this is working, this is not working. We felt like it tugged on our heartstrings internally. Turns out no one cared about it, or they didn't watch the video long enough. That's how we found the analytics of kind of what works on TikTok and Instagram. And I always say it's starting with the end at the beginning. So starting with what that payout's going to be. And you see that a lot on the TikTok ads where someone goes, I'm going to tell you today the 5 reasons you need to have this color hair. And then they'll introduce themselves. So they're going to tell you exactly what they're about to tell you, then tell you who they are, and then tell you the 5 reasons. And by then you're hooked and you've waited the whole time for the 5 reasons.
So what is one metric that marketers obsess over that you think should be retired forever? And please say impressions. I'm begging you.
I do think impressions are a huge piece of that. It's funny because I was talking to someone the other day and they said, I don't understand why my impressions are down, but my revenue's up. And I was like, then who cares about your impressions, right? If your revenue went up and you're telling me, so it could mean anything. It could mean you're hitting more qualified users. You didn't need to waste so many impressions. It could be that those impressions actually were brokered on top of each other throughout the media buying process. So there's lots of ways. But for a long time, that's all we had was impressions, click through, and then someone, depending on what vertical you were in, like hotels, I could always see all the way through to the booking. But there are some verticals where it's harder to see through to the lead or the booking. But now end all be all is revenue. Did it drive sales or not?
So if you were a character from The Office, who would it be?
I think I want to be Steve Carell's character. I want to be the main character just because he's so flipping funny. Just the way he attacks life. But that's also why I want to be Ted Lasso too, if I had a choice, because the way he attacks life with this positive way is just very interesting to me.
I've never seen Ted Lasso. What is it about?
Stop it. Really?
It's on Apple, right? That's the one?
Yeah. So it's, first of all, you should watch it. But it's about this coach who's originally from England and he's from the US. He has to go over to England and he's going to coach soccer. And he gets put together with a partner coach and they have to get the soccer team off the ground. And it's the dynamic of how he comes in and what he's used to coaching in America with football versus soccer and how he is able to translate it. But he attacks everything with this very positive belief that really there's no bad things in the world, or maybe he's naive, whatever it might be, but he just has this way of attacking life. And I love that for him.
So how do you keep data from becoming a straitjacket for creativity?
I think you constantly evolve and you have to open your mind and see what's possible. I find when I go to conferences and I can take data and I can think about it differently, or I can separate it and think about creative and then think about how I want to match it back to data, it allows for this room to really test and find new ways of doing things. Otherwise, you're beholdeth to whatever someone tells you. And it can become stifling if you don't create a creative outlet to draw on a whiteboard, right? To actually open your mind.
So you're known for your ability to craft campaigns that cut through the noise. Your focus on emotional connection and authenticity has made you stand out. So I want to know, what is the loudest, most obnoxious marketing trend that you've ever seen?
Remember that Super Bowl commercial where it was just the QR code?
That was famous. It did well. It did amazing.
It did well, but it was incredibly obnoxious, but that's why it did so well, is because when it came through, everybody was like, what is that? Why is it just a QR code? And it created this conversation that people were like, all right, what is it? Let's check it out. And to me, was it creative? I don't know. Was it annoying? A little bit, but it worked.
Well, I actually forgot who it was. I had to look it up. It was Coinbase.
Yeah, there you go.
So maybe it didn't work so well because I forgot who did it.
They had a hot minute.
No branding.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite example of a campaign that broke through because it connected emotionally, not just because it was loud?
Apple's done some really good ones.
Which one?
God, I can't remember, but I know there was one that flat out made me cry. The other ones that I always cry at are the ones where like it's for Skype, which I don't think exists anymore. Maybe it does. Or videos, and it's showing the parents connecting. Like Amazon, the screen ones have them. I can vividly remember it. But emotional doesn't have to just be sad, and that's what I immediately went to. But Jake from State Farm will always be one of my favorite. And when she is like, who are you talking to? The husband goes, it's Jake from State Farm. And she goes, she sounds hideous. And he's like, well,
I remember. Yeah, it's like middle of the night, right?
Yeah, and it's so funny to me. And the she shed one was also really funny. I don't know why those
where it burns down, right? And she's calling to try to get the claim.
Always so funny. And then the camel one, the Mike. I mean, people still quote that. So you know they've created something that resonates.
So let's say I give you $100 to create a viral campaign. What is your first move? And if it involves glitter, you win automatically.
Well, I wish there was glitter. I think so. The ones you see $100 isn't a lot, but the ones you see that do really well is those random acts of kindness or the staged things. And you could spend $10 a person and go find someone on the street to help you. You could walk up to people and do things and videotape it. Those are going to do pretty well. And then you could take your last $50 and promote it on TikTok with the right hashtags. And you probably do fairly well.
Right. Which if you could ban one marketing buzzword forever, what would it be and why would it be synergy?
Omnichannel.
Why?
Omnichannel, because everybody says it. Well, I have a list of words when I speak at conferences that are like if we had to drink every time someone says these words, we'd all be wasted. But omnichannel is one of them because they always go, we're omnichannel, but yet very few solutions are omnichannel.
Like every single channel, right?
Everybody's omnichannel. And then big data. What is that? Well, it's data, but bigger. Okay, cool. And then I was at a conference recently and the woman goes, we're going to penetrate the market. And I went, no, that's on the list of words we can't use anymore. And she just kept saying it. And I'm like,
That's close to, is that like considered sexual harassment now?
I don't know, but I just was like, I feel like that should go on the words we're not going to say.
Yeah, what is omnichannel? Well, like, obviously everyone's not using every channel. Like, people aren't spray painting stuff.
And people go, well, we're an omnichannel solution, all in one. All in one of what? All in one CRM, all in one CDP. What are you an all in one of? But so many people utilize this word and don't really actually understand what it means. Or they go, well, we're going to bring all our solutions together, right? We're going to get the email and the SMS. We're going to tie them all together in a bow through APIs and integrations. And then we're going to be omnichannel. Still no.
So you're known because of your deep commitment to understanding an audience, whether it's learning from customer feedback, like the infamous mango habanero saga, or leveraging emotional intelligence. You prioritize genuine connections over surface level data. So I want to know, what is the strangest thing you've ever learned about an audience that made you rethink a campaign?
Well, so at Wingstop, we did a bunch of customer research. And we realized our core demo that was really excited about our product and was coming into the restaurants was 18, 24-year-old and very diverse and multicultural. Well, when we learned that, I looked back at the campaign we were running, and we were running Troy Aikman campaign. And that was very surprising to me because So then we went back to the 18 to 24-year-old demographic and said, do you know who Troy Aikman is? And they said, yeah. And I went, you do? Who is he? And he's the announcer for sports games. And I was like, okay, cool. What else do you think he did?
Didn't he used to play football or something?
Correct. Like very well known. But like when you start talking to an 18-year-old about this, they're like, no, didn't connect with them. And it didn't feel relevant or cool to them. And so we switched that and we actually went after a gentleman by the name of Rick Ross, who was also a franchisee of Wingstop. And he was a great cheerleader and he did resonate with that 18 to 24-year-old market. And we also looked at the campaign that was, we're the wing experts. Well, everyone likes when you walk up to someone and say, I'm an expert. That doesn't do anything. And the campaign switched to what was get at it, Wingstop, get at it, which is about getting after life, attacking life, being creative, cultivating it. The same way, turns out you eat wings, with your elbows on the table and you get really messy. So that was really exciting to see that shift happen after really understanding the audience.
It says that he's owned at least 15 stores at one time.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
so he was very involved, which made a lot of sense to bring him under the.
Are customer personas still relevant, or are they just the horoscopes of marketing now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you're exactly right. So personas existed because we didn't have the data before. Personas existed because we would say, well, our demographic looks like Paul, and Paul looks like this, and Paul wears khakis. And you're like, but a lot of people come into our store that don't wear khakis, so that doesn't feel right. And so now that we have all this data, we can really start to look at it and go, all right, who is it? And maybe it's more of a psychographic than a demographic. It doesn't have to be, well, our core consumer is 18 years old. No, your core consumer has a certain belief system and a thought process and the reason that they're buying this product. And so understanding that is huge. How much on average does their household income, how they show a propensity to be in that market, right? Just because I might be a Toyota driver right now doesn't mean I won't drive a Kia eventually. And how can they start to match back data to show when I might show that propensity to move into the Kia realm?
So are Scorpio audiences passionate but unpredictable?
Would you say Scorpio audiences?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, passionate but unpredictable. That would be a good description.
So let's just say, hypothetically, your audience demands something that's completely against your instincts. Do you give in, push back, or find a creative compromise?
You test. You go, all right, this doesn't make sense. I'm not sure why it shows this. Let's see. But you also have to run it through what I call the red thread, which is what does your brand stand for? So if your brand, like in Vegas, if your brand is a Vegas vacation, you go to Vegas to release your inhibitions, to have a party, to let your hair down, and maybe it also overlaps with certain religious beliefs. I'm not going to roll out a campaign about religious beliefs to get you to come to Vegas. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't go through my red thread. Instead, right. I would say, no, everyone's welcome. Come to Vegas, let your hair down, let's have a party. And that piece of data just might not filter its way into a campaign.
Why?
Well, because if I want you to let your hair down and someone's worried about their thought process as it relates to that, it doesn't necessarily match back. So a better example, if at Wingstop, my research would show that people who eat wings also love tacos, I might go partner with a taco brand, but I'm not going to roll out a taco at Wingstop because that's not my core bread and butter.
Makes sense. So what's your favorite way to gather the data for audience insights that go beyond the obvious?
It would be through all of the different verticals coming together into like a customer data platform. So what has always been hard for especially restaurants is they would go, well, we have all this app data, but only 10% of their users use the app. So what they would do is they would go, all right, I have this app data and then I have this like probabilistic data and I'll pull that in, but it still was only a small segment of their actual user base. Now we can actually see all your point of sale data, your app data, your web data, all of it, and bring it all together to see what your customer looks like and start to create full customer profiles off of that. That can be done in a CDP. In the past, it would be in a CRM, but then everybody went, oh, we have more data than a CRM can handle, so let's name it something else with a different letter. All, for the most part, the same purpose. But that allows you to bring it together versus just one small segment of it.
So I want to move into talking about AI, AR, and all the gadgets that marketers can't stop. chasing. What's the best use of AI marketing that you've seen so far?
Well, there's lots of ways, but I think one of the things, so marketing wise, AI, the ability to know the person you're about to target and change the creative appropriately has been really exciting. It's been around for a long time. I also think AI in general has been around for a long time. We just decided to call it something and get people over the hurdle of using it. In the drive-through, like at a restaurant, the idea of being able to use AI to take orders, to be able to upsell appropriately. So now I don't have someone standing behind the window, but now I have an AI engine who can also adapt to multiple languages to be able to speak back to you versus someone coming through the drive-through asking if there's someone that speaks Spanish. I don't have someone. They're trying to order. There's a language barrier. So I've seen AI be really helpful. And then on a very basic level, the copywriting, the ability to test multiple variations of copy incredibly quickly in marketing, in email, and all of these areas without having to sit there with a copywriter for a week straight trying to tweak everything. You can churn them in and churn back out new iterations in seconds.
So do you have this hype filter that can help you know whether a tech is worth investing or it's a passing fad?
So I do like to keep my ear, what do they call it? Ear to the grindstone, whatever they call it, to understand. What usually happens is when something comes onto the market and is hype, right? Like our Super Bowl ad, it comes through and it takes a while. It takes a while to pick up. And so you have to be at the right time and the right, like you don't want necessarily to hit just the early adopters. You want to be able to hit the masses. So you keep an eye on it. You listen to what the early adopters are saying. And the moment it starts to lift up is when we'll go, all right, we're ready to get on board with that. The same with how text-based marketing happened, right? It used to be like, it started as like, you can text your customers. And a lot of people were like, oh, we would never do that. That's too, oh, it's like I'm infiltrating their house. And now everybody does it. But there was a curve that happened where you had early adopters who were like, I kind of like getting a text. Let's see how this works. And then eventually the masses started.
So what's one tech trend that you think marketers are too obsessed with right now?
AI, 100% AI. I do. I think we talk about it, but people don't actually understand it. So I had someone ask me the question the other day and he goes, do you do AI? And I was like, what does that even mean? Do I do AI? Yes. Do I do AI in the drive-through? Do I use AI for marketing? Do I use AI for employee operations? There's so many ways you can utilize AI. Do I use it for creative? Do I use it for image generation? So many ways, and yet people still don't understand it. So they're like, do you use AI? I use AI. Do you use AI? And I'm like, if I don't have to hear that word and we could actually talk about what we're doing in our industry, that would be great.
So how do you keep tech from becoming a distraction instead of a tool?
You focus on the customer. So we've said for years at every conference everywhere, right person, right time, right place, right message. And yet we won't do it. And we'll say, well, we're going to have an app. We want everybody to use our app. Not everybody's going to use your app. They just won't. That's not who they are. So then we would say, all right, well, we'll have an app and a web interface and we'll have ordering. No, the question is, where do your customers want to order? And that's where you need to be. Go find where they're hanging out and then go there. You don't ask your customer to always come to you. You go find them.
So from shiny gadget to real human connections, let's move on and talk about leadership and the art of building great teams. Your philosophy is built on empathy, positivity, and loyalty, and you value creatives and environments where people feel supported and empowered even when navigating challenges. What is the best leadership advice you've ever ignored, and why were you right to ignore it?
I was told I had to adapt to a quote-unquote man's world. I was not allowed to have emotions,
right.
Meaning everything had to be, cut and paste, I couldn't be my authentic self. And I tried. I've been in
When was this?
It's been years ago now. And I tried to adapt. And I thought, to be a professional, I had to wear a pantsuit and I had to look a certain way and I had to cut my hair short because that's what it took to fit in this professional world. And what I found is I actually failed miserably.
Right.
And what worked is the more I started to become my authentic self, to live out loud, to share who I was and what I've gone through, it worked much, much better than trying to adapt to what I thought would work.
So how do you handle that one team member that's brilliant, but is also a total pain in the...
I believe everybody has a good heart in one form or fashion, right? If you're on my team, you have a good heart. I believe that everyone on my team will take the Gallup Strength Finder, and they do, which is all about lifting someone up by their strengths. So,
Right.
For instance, if I focus on your strengths, you're going to go really, really far. Michael Jordan, amazing basketball player. Some argue that he was the best. I don't know. But he has a natural talent for basketball. And then he cultivated that and he focused on his strengths and he went so far. Now, same guy, Michael Jordan, same guy who was super talented, maybe the best basketball player in the world, went after baseball. And he had all the money in the world to cultivate that strength, right? To be the best person, best baseball player in the world, but he didn't have the natural talent. And so cultivating someone's talent is huge, and they can be the Michael Jordan of what that strength is. Or you end up in a lot of cases where someone comes in for their review and they're like, here's your weak areas. I really need you to work on that. Not only do I not have fun working on my weak areas, but I'm probably not going to be the best of the best. I'm not going to be the Michael Jordan of basketball. I may be the Michael Jordan of baseball. I don't know. So how do we really focus on people's strengths? So to your question, how do I deal with someone who might be a pain? I need to figure out where their heart is, what drives them. Am I really activating them off of their strengths? And then build them from there.
So how do you cultivate talent? What is your philosophy on mentoring? Is it Mr. Miyagi or Gordon Ramsay?
It's not Gordon Ramsay. I believe a lot in radical candor. And there's a book on that where if I care about you, if I truly care about you, and I care about everyone on my team, if I care about you, I'm going to be direct with you. I'm going to tell you areas. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. I'm not going to hide anything. I'm going to tell you the areas you need to work on. And that's radical candor. Now, if I do care about you and I'm passive aggressive, I'm not actually helping you. If I don't share with you what you need to work on or how we're going to grow together, or be honest and open with you so that we can improve. Now, if I don't care about you, but I do share that straightforwardness, then I'm just an asshole. And they build a full diagram on it, which is to be a true leader, you have to care, but you have to be able to have those hard conversations that allow people to grow. But I'm going to hug and love you every step of the way there.
So if your leadership style was a cocktail, what would be your recipe? And bonus points if it's not 90% bitters.
My leadership style was a cocktail, it would probably be a mimosa, because it comes with a lot of energy, which is the sugar from orange juice, and the champagne being something that we can all feel proud of.
So let's move on to one of my favorite parts, which is you get stuck on a desert island and you can only bring 5 people. Who would they be?
Lord, I keep changing this. This is a hard question. So at first I was like, well, I have to bring my children, but that would take 3 out right there. So I can't do that. So they're off the island. Maybe one of them, but then that wouldn't be fair. I would bring Jesus Christ because he can do a lot of miracles. I would bring, but then I also went back and forth on if I was allowed to say that. So I'm still going to say it. I would bring Nate Bargatze because he's hysterical. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because I feel like he could build stuff. And the guy from Lost too, the guy that went down Jack or whatever, he became very feisty. I feel like he'd be a good one. And then it gets hard. I had notes
here about Virgin River and Boxcar Children.
Yeah, Jack from Virgin River too. Virgin River, he can do anything, right? He kind of runs the whole town. He has heart, maybe a little substance abuse problem, but who knows if you're going to find that on an island. But overall, I feel like he could get a lot done. And then Boxcar Children, if you remember Christy, I think it's Christy from Boxcar Children, she took over. She was the mom. She made sure everybody knew well, we can take this plant and break it down and it becomes food. So I feel like she'd be a good organizer of it too. So there's just so many different people, but I was trying to build how are we going to sustain on this island, or the ability to which one of you can build the boat that gets us off this island?
What's one luxury item you bring and why?
I went back and forth on this too. I think luxury item, I would bring all the good smelly salts and things like that. But I think there's so many different things you could bring. A blanket, soap. Yeah, all of those would be great. But then you think, well, wouldn't I just adapt and I'd figure out the soap thing and be able to figure out all this? So
make it from blubber, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jack from Virgin River would, but I would be.
So if coconuts became the island currency, what is your marketing pitch to dominate the economy?
Say that one more time. Let's
just say coconuts become the currency. I want to hear your marketing pitch.
Well, this is the same idea of sell me the pen, right? If coconuts were this idea that you need them to live, they can do everything. From the husk can be clothing or covering or help with a fire. The insides are food and nutritious. The shells can become clothing all the way through to housing ornaments. So there are multiple pieces that a coconut can play. And so you don't want to leave home without it.
So who's going to crack first?
On the island?
Is it you?
Probably. But I feel like between the Jacks and Christy,
I think it might be Jack.
Yeah.
You mentioned substance abuse.
It depends if he's going through.
I don't want to make light of it, but if he's stuck on an island with...
Or the loss. I mean, who cares? Like, have some drinks. Like, we're here together. Who cares? No, I think there would probably be some animosity between like Christy and Jack from Virgin River. Like, they wouldn't necessarily get along. Now, again, she was a child in Boxcar Children, but I aged her up for this hypothetical scenario. But I think that there would be some like breakdowns there where like they're not all in it to win it together.
What's your island anthem, and does it involve singing to seagulls?
To be fair, I was singing Little Mermaid the other day and the Kiss the Girl and singing the seagull version of it. So like, yes, probably. Island anthem, probably Red, Red Wine, that song.
You'll be 40, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Would you want to leave the island, or does no emails sound too good to pass up?
I think I'd go crazy if I just had the same people all the time, and I'm a people person. So like, I mean, maybe there are people that live on the island somewhere and we'd make friends with them. On the flip side, Moana 2 is about to come out, and there's something really beautiful about living on an island, a magical island. So maybe.
What's the first thing you do when you got back home?
Shower. Take a nice warm shower. I assume I won't have a warm shower.
So speaking of going home, let's bring it home with personal reflections and some big ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Your journey has been remarkable, not just personally, but also how you've openly shared it. From your husband's accidents to his incredible recovery, you've invited others into your world in a way that is raw, honest, inspiring. How has this experience shaped the way you approach life, work, and connections?
So as far as my husband's journey, and anyone who wants to read it can, there's so many articles out there. It changes how I've attacked life, which is nothing really matters, and yet everything's important. So everybody's important. People are more important than they've ever been before in my life. Cultivating friendships are more important. And it turns out what I do all day long, I'm not a rocket scientist. So like, it shouldn't be like when you see people freak out over they sell, chocolate bars, and you're like, why are we worried about that? That's not a big deal. Like, maybe today's going to be hard, but tomorrow's going to be better. So, and helping people and supporting people through that, because a lot of people supported me through what was a very, very dark time. And it truly does change my belief system and perseverance. And a lot of people would say, like, you're so strong. And I didn't feel strong. I felt very weak. I felt helpless. I felt out of control. But you just have to keep moving forward. And even if some days feel like I don't want to get out of bed, then it's baby steps of like, I just have to like throw back the blankets and start with sitting up. All right, I sat up. Now I have to get in the shower. And like little by little, you get there.
So you were very public about your journey. You shared updates, struggles, and moments of hope. How did the openness impact you? And what did you hope to give to others by letting them in?
So about 42,000 people read The Caring Bridge. And as I would update, and the whole reason I started it was just because so many people would text me and be like, what's the update? What's the update? And I just didn't want to text everyone back. It was exhausting. So I was like, here's like a blog. You can read the update each day. And I would update. And at first I didn't know anyone was reading it. And then all of a sudden I kept getting these notes. And if I missed a day, people would lose their mind. They'd be like, what happened? Is he okay? Like, what's going on with the kids? Are they okay? And all of a sudden the tentacles reached across the globe of people. As people came to me and said, your journey inspired me. Your journey is the only reason I was able to get through this issue with my husband or this issue with our family. That told me there was something there. And they said, it's a journey of faith. And I said, again, felt very broken. Felt like all I wanted was people to send me jokes and memes. And now, fast forward, they're talking about publishing a book about it. And they want to create this journey of like, because there was the climax and he is considered a less than 1%er on how he survived and they can't believe it. So the first time I spoke in front of a crowd about it, I burst into tears because I didn't realize reliving it out loud was going to be so hard. But so many people walked up to me and said, you are the reason that I showed up tonight. You are the reason that I'm able to go home and know that life continues to get better and hope means something. And so I've continued to share it. I've continued to be open because it's not all roses. People go, oh, he survived. It's great. Yeah. And he still has a traumatic brain injury. And it's still incredibly challenging. And there's still a lot of trauma. And the first time I heard an ambulance go by and I fell into the corner crying, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't even know that's what PTSD was. But all of a sudden I knew I was having this visceral reaction to hearing a sound, how you get through that. And I'm a big fan of everybody having a therapist or multiple. There's a team of people that keep this shit show together. And so having that team of people that you can talk to, that you can reprocess your thoughts and how you look at things and what those feelings are so unbelievably important. And if I said I came out the other side, I'm still going through it. I'm still going through challenging times, but I know that there's always a tomorrow.
So reflecting on that night and everything that followed, what is one piece of advice that you give to someone facing their own life-altering challenge?
That you take it day by day, and what matters is what you believe matters, and you have to block out some of the noise. Because people will tell you how to feel. They'll show up and they'll be like, I think you needed this, and everybody's just trying to help. Everybody's trying to help. Whether they're bringing you a meal or they're bringing you their thoughts and prayers, whatever it might be, they're trying to, in their way, say, I'm here for you. And the best gift you can give someone is to allow them to be there for you. Because we try and be so strong. And especially as an executive woman, I see this in a lot of executive women. They feel like they have to be strong for everything and everyone. And the best thing you can do is ask for help and say, you know what, I'm kind of a shit show today. I'm going to go drink a couple White Claws and cry in a corner. I'll see you in the morning, right? And so being okay that we give ourselves grace. We give other people grace. If someone came to me and said they were super sad, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what can I do? But yet, if I feel super sad, I don't give myself that grace. So give yourself grace. Allow yourself to feel the feelings, because the only way through is through, as much as we don't want to go through the crap.
So if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with any message, what would it say and why? And something bolder than buy more ice cream.
It's truly the live the life you imagine, right? Don't fear failure. I mean, I have lots of them, right? It's the whole just do it, the take the leap, whatever it might be, because so many people hold themselves back. And I mentor a lot of women and men in the space, and they'll say to me, well, I don't know if I should do that. And I was like, all right, let's go to the worst thing that could happen. What's the worst thing that can happen? They go, I get fired. I was like, all right, cool. So you live off the land. What does that look like? What does that mean, right? Like, what happens? And once you go to the extreme, you all of a sudden walk yourself back and you go, yeah, why am I not jumping? What did I fear so badly? Was it judgment? Was it failure? Let's just do it. And worst case, we'll walk it back later.
Is fear a big issue you find with your mentorees?
Yeah, so there's a lot of fear. Nobody comes forward and goes, I'm really scared. I'm really fearful of this. You hear it through them talking about, like, well, I don't know if I should do that because here's all the change that would happen. And you go, oh, so you're afraid of something. Oh, I'm not afraid. It's just like, here's all the things that would change. And I'm like, so you're scared of the change? No, I'm not scared of the change. Well, then why are we talking about it? And as you talk through it and they have a sounding board, they go, well, I'm not afraid. I said, then so what's stopping you? Well, or they say, well, my wife or my husband, I haven't talked about it. Well, go talk about it. What stopped you from talking about that? Okay, well, that sounds like a relationship thing. Let's unpack that. But everything leads to the next thing. But it really comes from this place of fear of the unknown. We don't know what's around the bend, so we don't want to take the bend. And Pocahontas taught us that we're supposed to go around it. So let's roll.
Speaking of mentors, you've mentioned that Flynn Decker and David Norton are your mentors. What's the best lesson they taught you, and how has that shaped your career? And also, did they know that they were your Yodas, or is this a surprise to them?
I think this would be a surprise. First of all, I'll be the first to say I'm not the easiest to work with, or I don't think I am, because I come in and I'm always learning. I'm always questioning everybody, and not everybody likes to be questioned. But Flynn came in to Wingstop as our CMO, and he's now like CEO of Shipley's Donuts and has been a bunch of places. But his ability to look at things, not just to push the needle forward, but to look at things from such an optimistic light, even when maybe the business or the things surrounding him weren't necessarily the most optimistic, and he went through some struggles as well, he would always come in and be like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. We got this. And that, to me, means more than anything of the attitude he brought to the table. David Norton and I worked together. He was the CMO at Caesars when I came in, and I was the bottom of the barrel. So it'd be like whale feces, me. Like I was like the figurative dishwasher, brought you coffee vibe. And so we didn't really know each other, but I knew him. He was on a pedestal for me. And so as I grew in my career, I get to the Palms, and here he comes walking back in the door. And we got to sit down and have conversations together. And since then, I've had multiple conversations with him through the years. And he always had a much slower than my go, 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 but he would have this slow way of questioning things that would make you think. And you'd go, okay, like that makes sense. You didn't necessarily want to hear it, right? We don't always want the direct candor, but you would say it and you go, yeah, I should do that, or I should think about that, or how do you question where you're at and where you need to go? And he was always motivational through all of it.
What's one crazy opinion you have about the marketing world that you love to shout from the rooftops? And I'm guessing it's not every ad should have a talking animal, but prove me wrong.
Although I would love a good camel that yells Mike in all my ads. I would say digital consolidation. What we're seeing, or tech consolidation. That omni-channel word I said, where everybody brought the integrations together and APIs together, and they would go, I don't understand why all my data isn't talking to my other data and I can't match it back. And what we're actually seeing is post-COVID, there was a tech boom. Everybody needed 20 vendors for everything. I need a vendor to do this, a vendor partner to do this, a vendor to do this. And we're starting to see that consolidate together, where you can really go out and find someone who can handle 10 of those things, and then another one who can handle 10 of those things. So now the data truly is sitting together. And when we figure that out, and then what it does is it releases your marketing and media dollars to go after more customer acquisition, because you really can see the data about your current guests. We're seeing that happen more and more throughout, where people before thought they had to build these custom solutions, and now they're going, that exists out there. That problem has been solved. Let's see if we can maneuver our business into that.
So if you could go back in time to your younger self, just starting your career, what advice would you give her? And would it involve telling her to skip the busy work or not to worry about the mango habanero?
I think not to take everybody always says don't take the small things or don't sweat the small stuff, but it would be don't wait. It would be not to listen to so many outside voices, to listen what I wanted, to be my authentic self, to care less about what other people think, because it turns out if they're not willing to go as far or as fast as I am, why am I listening to their opinion? Why am I caring? Why did I decide that I had to follow the complete societal norm right out of the box of get a job, have a family, all these things? Like, do what makes you happy and find more of those things that make you happy. And if making money makes you happy, you figure that out. Figure out what those core values are. Ryan Berman, he has a book called Return to Courage. And in Return to Courage, he talks about figuring out what your core values are. What are your strengths? What makes you tick? And do more of those things. Because I spent a lot of years not doing the things I truly loved, or being able to feel fulfilled, or feeling like because I loved it, it wasn't work.
Right.
And in all reality, I love what I get to do. And that is even better.
So speaking of things you love to do, what's your guilty pleasure? Is it like binge watching questionable reality TV?
I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. So
Okay.
that's my guilty pleasure. I fell into it, and it turns out I'm very competitive, but I really love it. And it brings out the inner child in me. That's pure joy, whether it's getting thrown in the air or realizing I can salsa with the best of them on the floor, or dance for Dancing with the Stars. It's really exciting.
What have you learned from that you could apply to the marketing industry?
So I think marketing and leadership. So vulnerability. In order to really go far, you have to be vulnerable. I can't let someone throw me in the air and then drop me to where my head's 2 inches off the ground without feeling very, very vulnerable, but also having a lot of trust. And so trust in your marketing partners, trust in your marketing efforts, trust in your team, being able to adapt, meaning not every dance are you going to remember perfectly, and you have to rely on your partner. So why teamwork is important. And if one of you takes a misstep, how do you recover? We had a competition in, I think it was Chicago earlier this year. And at the end near the very end of one of my routines, I basically flip upside down where my head's about an inch off the ground and my feet are straight up in the air and my partner's holding me.
Right.
Well, he took a misstep And I knew in his face that my head was about to crash into the ground. I tucked my neck. He came down almost right on top of me, and we adapted and we finished the routine as if it was part of the routine. And could I have walked off there and said, I'm never walking back on that floor? I absolutely could. Instead, I went up to my room. I uncontrollably cried for about 5 minutes because there was that moment of like thousands of people just saw me crash and burn. And then I went, all right, fixed my makeup, switched my dresses, and walked right back onto that floor. And I would say it's really not about, and this is marketing or leadership, it's not about when you fall down. We're all going to fall down. We absolutely will. It has everything to do with how you get back up.
So when have you fallen on your head metaphorically?
So many times. Early on in my career, I thought the gossip train was how you get ahead. And so I fell on my head realizing that that is not how you get ahead. Talking about someone else and not lifting others up, absolutely
Right.
not. Early in my career, I thought I was on top of the world, and I would act as if I was on top of the world. And I wasn't. And none of us are really on top of the world. What I've realized throughout the years is every rung in the ladder I climb, it's actually just a different world, but there's always someone above. Whether you get to the CEO suite, there's a board above you. There's private equity above you. There's always someone above you. And you're never at a point where you go, I am standing on top of the mountain without anyone. I also think thinking I could do it all alone. Fell on my head plenty of times in marketing thinking I could do all of this. I didn't really need anyone. I can run a consultancy. I didn't need anyone. And you need partners. You need other people. They actually make you much, much better. So there are plenty of times that I've failed, but I try and fail forward so we can get back up.
So before you go, if there's one thing you hope people remember about you after this interview, what would it be?
That I'm open to any conversations, any and always, that they can reach out, that if they need a sounding board or if there's any day that they wake up and they go, I don't know if I can do this today, because I've been there, that they make a phone call, that they can call me or someone else and say, I'm really struggling today. I'm really struggling with this marketing campaign. I'm really struggling with life. I'm really struggling with my relationship. I'm really struggling with my children, whatever it might be. I'm just struggling with getting in the car and going into the office. There's someone there that's willing to listen, and I'm happy to be that person.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the ADOTAT Show. Huge thanks to Erin Levzow for sharing her spicy insights, mango-infused marketing wisdom, and a few laughs along the way. From data-driven storytelling to Rick Ross-level brand moves, Erin reminded us why creativity and strategy are the ultimate power couple. A special shout out to our sponsors, Troutman Amin, your go-to for keeping compliance cool and incremental, proving that smarter marketing starts with better measurement. Your support keeps us bold, curious, and always ready to know more than we did yesterday. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and maybe grab some wings for the road. See you soon.